Yeah. And you mentioned living from the end in mind. I think that's challenging for a lot of guys too who don't even have, not even the role models in their lives to be able to model, but just the models. We're really, you and I are in this sort of realm of dads where we're these pioneers, essentially changing the way that dads are being fathers. And also, we don't have a ton of examples to say this is how it's done, or this is the right way, or you know and perhaps we have counterexamples. I've talked a lot about this show here. My listeners are getting their bingo card. But the classic Homer Simpsons, and the Al Bundys, and the Tim the Toolman Taylors. It's like the Ray Romanos. I mean, the list literally goes on and on of all these oafy doofus dads, hot wives, amazing hot wives. They don't talk about that, right? And so we just, I know for me, subconsciously, I realized that I was like, oh, I'm thinking that like the way to happiness is living according to Jim, when it's like, that. And I would imagine that most guys who aren't as do as much, work on in terms of self-awareness, and trying to, examine their beliefs and why they're just going there, running off of this programming, running off of these sort of beliefs and perspectives. And I know it fucked up my marriage. I think I was fortunate enough to catch it before it damaged my relationship with my kids, very much. But I have a feeling that guys are going to look up, millennial dads are going to look up in their 40s, 40, early 50s, and go like, I thought I knew it, but I missed it. And hopefully these conversations will kind of wake guys up to some of that stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly why I do what I do, man. And I know that's probably why you do what you do. I'm a product of a generational curse. My father was an alcoholic. His father was an alcoholic. I was on the path of becoming an alcoholic. I was torpedoing my marriage. I was 60 pounds overweight. I was 100 grand in debt, on the verge of divorce. It was absolute chaos. And I was simply just repeating everything that came before me, whether I liked it or not. I was a product of my environment. And so I had to take ownership. Um, and so I could have looked and said, well, my past was this. And so therefore this is just all that's going to happen, and allow life to just happen to me, you know, or I could say, no, 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 this life has happened for me. What can I take from this? How can this past serve my future? And how can I bring that past into an alignment with my purpose and where I'm moving, so that I can go somewhere different than my father was, and his father was. And I think you're right. We don't have a lot of great examples, but at the end of the day, we have to take ownership and define what that looks like for us. Because I think that's another trap men fall into. They look to the neighbor or their boss or their brother-in-law, or you fill in the blank with whoever you compare yourself to, and say, well, that is success, or I want to be like that. And we get caught in this trap of comparison, constantly striving to be something that doesn't even make sense or apply to us, versus defining what success looks like for me and my home, for me and my marriage, for me and my kids, and looking inward instead of outward. I think is a big first step to say, what does it look like for me to show up powerfully as a man in my home today, right now, right? Versus what everyone else is doing, or what other people have done in the past, or what Hollywood says I should do, or, you name it, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely two parts to that conversation, and the first is identifying what that is. I remember early on, I think we're now in episode 100. We're like in the 110, something like that. Is probably what we're at up. And over those first 100 episodes, one of the recurring themes that I really got frustrated at early on was modern masculinity is whatever you want it to be. And I'm like, that's such a fucking cop out. Like that sounds like bullshit. That sounds like bad advice. And then as I started to like But then we got to like episode 60 and everybody kept saying it. And I was like, fuck, like what is here? What is this? Okay, if that is the message that continues to come through, what does that mean? Because also I had done what you had said, and put I had put someone else's label or model of masculinity, or I had put their ideal of whatever, marriage, relationship, parenting, whatever it is, and I had adopted that as my own. And there's bound to be some disintegrity between those because it's not actually what I wanted. It was what I thought my family said that I wanted, or what society or the Catholic, my Catholic school. Like, you can pick all these things, and I'm there, this young kid, just going, oh, that's what you want me to do. Okay, I'll jump. And it took a divorce. It took me like hitting bottom after bottom. It's like that cartoon where Wile E. Coyote like falls off the cliff and then he hits another one, and then like he hits another one, and like that's what it kept feeling like. It's like there's a new bottom and a new bottom, and it took those for me to finally look at myself and go, Hector, what do you want? And the other part of that equation, though, is that now, once there was an awareness, I had to develop a sense of, like, I had to develop my own courage to actually act in that and stay in that and live in that and not, and, you know, I don't mind being weird or being out of the like ordinary. Like, before, I would do everything to sort of fit in or go with the flow. And now I'm not like ecclesiastic or whatever that word is just for the sake of being contrarian, but it's like I'm also not willing to not do something because I'm afraid of what other people might say. Like, for too long, I did that and lived my life that way, thinking that it would work out. And, it just ended up in misery and divorce and all the sorts of things that, guys, I imagine, don't want.
Well, and I think you hit on a key word there was, you know, there's this idea that it's not authentic, because we're trying to apply something someone else made or someone else's rules for life or someone else's system to our life, which is not how we're designed to live. We see this all the time in the fitness industry. Like the three things that I focus on with my clients and the communities that I've built is you know, uh, I help high performing men reclaim their home, their health, and their happiness. And so that's the home is key relationships, partner, children. Their health is their fitness, and their happiness is all about their mindset and psychology. But the fitness piece, I mean, we see this played out all the time. It's like, oh, what's the new fad? It's 75 hard. Okay, well, I'm going to do that because that's what's going to help me lose weight. Oh no, okay, now it's carnivore. Okay, well, I'm going to do carnivore. Or okay, no, we're going to switch that. I'm going to go to keto. We're jumping from shiny object to shiny
I've
object.
done all three. I've tried all three.
And none of them, we don't even stop to think, is this sustainable for me? Does this make sense for me? Can I keep doing this for the rest of my life, or is this just a fad? And we do the exact same thing for rules around our marriage or our relationships, or rules around our parenting, or rules around how we show up as an entrepreneur or whatever. And it's like, well, this worked for them, so therefore it should work for me. And I'm like, well, no. What works?
One part of that equation, though, is that I'm learning and giving myself the grace, because I at one point I got, 75 hard. I never completed it. I only got to like 37, or like, I think, 40. I didn't get all the way there, and I continually saw that experience as like a failure. Same thing with, like, I tried vegan for a while, and I made that like 3 or 4 months, or like I tried all these things. And what's interesting now, though, is as I look back on it, it was like, oh, I just took a little bit of that, like, out of the 75 hard thing. Now the idea and the concept of sticking to, like, one thing I use from that is the diet or plan, whatever it is, or working out outside. Like, yeah, I pulled some of these little things, and now I've been able to make my own sort of stew of things that work for me. And it took me falling, and failing through some of these things to be able to get me there. Maybe I could have skipped through some of those, but I also think that if guys can, like, also adapt that approach, where all of it, right, is not right for you, but maybe some of it you can take and utilize and leverage.